She wasn't assassinated. She wasn't deposed. She didn't die in battle. She simply vanished, and most disturbingly, she orchestrated every detail of her own death. While an entire empire mourned the grandest funeral in history, the woman inside the coffin wasn't who everyone thought she was. The true Empress was already hundreds of miles away, reborn as someone the world would never see again. Ordinary woman, this is the most audacious escape story you've ever heard. Imagine being the most powerful woman on 3 continents and realizing that you are, in fact, the most imprisoned of all. Celestina woke up in silk sheets that cost the price of entire villages. But she couldn't choose when to sleep or wake up. She ate from plates of pure gold, while the menu was decided by Imperial nutritionists who never asked her preferences. For 20 years, she was the perfect Empress, and for 20 years, Celestina died a little each day under that crown. The Altamira Empire was an insatiable machine that devoured souls in exchange for greatness and absolute power. Celestina was chosen at the age of 15 to marry Emperor Maximus, a man 40 years her senior. On her wedding night, while the empire celebrated with fireworks and banquets, she looked at the ceiling and made a silent promise. At that moment, it was just the desperate dream of a frightened girl. But 2 decades later, it would be the most elaborate plan ever executed. Celestina was not like other empresses who accepted their fates with elegant resignation and peaceful submission. She studied every movement, observed every detail, memorized every secret corridor and every hidden passage of the Imperial palace. She knew the name of every servant, knew which ones were loyal out of genuine love, and which ones were loyal only for gold. Everyone thought she was merely decorative, but in truth she was building her escape brick by brick. Secret by secret accumulated. The plan began to take real shape when Celestina completed 35 years of suffocating imperial life. She had given the empire 3 children. Dynastic inheritance was secured, her reproductive role perfectly fulfilled. But then she realized something absolutely terrifying. She could live another 40 years in that gilded prison with no apparent escape. That's when she decided with crystal clarity. If she had to die eventually, let it be on her own terms and with a liberating purpose. The execution of the plan began in an extremely subtle way, with Celestina mysteriously falling ill, little by little. First, there were intense headaches that canceled important appointments. Then, inexplicable weaknesses that required days of complete rest. The Imperial doctors, already secretly bribed with gold, diverted from the royal coffers, confirmed each symptom with grave and worried expressions. The entire empire began to whisper with growing concern. The Empress was wasting away before their eyes, slowly and tragically. For 18 meticulously planned months, Celestina transformed her illness into a perfectly unquestionable narrative for everyone. She purposefully lost weight by secretly fasting, wearing strategically chosen clothes that made her appear even more frail and ill. She applied special makeup that simulated a deathly power, secretly cutting her hair, which supposedly fell out due to the devastating disease. Her public appearances became increasingly rare and dramatically impactful, the agonizing Empress still trying to fulfill her sacred duty. The absolutely crucial point of the audacious plan was to obtain a convincing body she could simply disappear without explanation. She needed a corpse that the entire empire would believe to be hers, and the solution came in a macabre but perfect way. A pally servant named Mira, of similar height and bone structure, had suddenly died of a fever under natural circumstances. Celestina acted with surgical speed, bribing doctors and guards. The body was preserved and disfigured in a convincing and artistically precise manner. The night of the Imperial death was a theatrical spectacle, calculated with absolute military precision and perfect timing. Celestina was given a powerful sedative that left her in a near catatonic state, while doctors dramatically declared her final moments approaching. The Emperor, all the important advisors, and her 3 sons were urgently summoned. She watched them through half-closed eyelids. When she officially died, the entire empire came to a complete standstill. Funeral bells tolled incessantly. Strangers wept in distant streets. The Imperial funeral was the largest and most magnificent spectacle Altamira had ever witnessed in its entire millennia-long history. 3 whole days of elaborate processions, funeral music, collective weeping, and public displays of profound and genuine mourning. The coffin remained carefully sealed officially due to the terrible deterioration caused by illness, while thousands paraded, paying their final respects, while the Empire solemnly bid farewell to the deceased Empress. The real Celestina was already crossing the North Sea, perfectly disguised as a widow. True freedom had the strange taste of salty seawater and simple stale bread, the smell of salt and absolute simplicity. Helena, her new chosen name, completely cut off her iconic long black hair, leaving it short, disheveled, and dyed brown. She ritually burned her last Imperial silk clothes and wore only cheap, rustic linen bought at a market sold by poor people. When she finally saw her transformed reflection in the still water of a well, for the first time in 20 years, she truly smiled from the heart. Helena strategically settled in a tiny coastal village so small it didn't even have an official name on the detailed Imperial maps. It was simply called Point of Oblivion by the local fishermen who lived there, perfect for someone who wanted to be forgotten forever. She bought a modest hut with gold carefully diverted over the years and started a new life. Raising goats, cultivating medicinal herbs, making cheese. Her imperial hands, which had signed decrees changing the destinies of millions, now milked simple animals at the dawn of each ordinary day. The first dangerous months were marked by constant hypervigilance. Celestina expected daily to be recognized, for Imperial soldiers to appear looking for her. But she realized something brilliantly simple. No one ever seriously searches for people who are officially dead and buried with full honors. And even more importantly, no one can imagine a powerful empress voluntarily transforming herself into a simple common goat herd from a forgotten village. The idea was so utterly absurd and inconceivable to ambitious minds that it served as the perfect, impenetrably come-over. As time naturally passed, Celestina finally stopped nervously glancing over her shoulder, expecting to be discovered at any moment. The Empire inevitably moved on. Explosive new political scandals, bloody distant wars, and palace dramas consumed all the attention of the court. She followed distant news through traveling merchants, always feigning only casual curiosity as a local resident uninterested in imperial politics. She learned when her eldest son became emperor and felt genuine pride mixed with profound relief at not being there stifling him. Life on Oblivious Point was incredibly simple, yet intensely real in ways that imperial life never was. Celestina woke with the rising sun because goats needed milking, not because rigid, empty protocols demanded attendance at ceremonies. She ate when she was truly hungry, slept when she was genuinely tired, and talked about mundane things with real, authentic neighbors. Each day lived without obligatory performances or imposed social masks was worth infinitely more than an entire decade of suffocating. False Imperial grandeur. Years turned into tranquil decades as Celestina's body aged naturally, without expensive imperial cosmetics hiding each honest wrinkle. Her hands grew rough and stained by true sunlight. Her gray hair grew wild and free without forced elaborate hairstyles. The villagers adored her deeply, not for political power or material wealth, but for genuine kindness and simple human compassion. She finally discovered that respect freely chosen for real actions is worth infinitely more than adoration forced by empty inherited titles. The Altamira Empire eventually fell and crumbled completely, as absolutely all empires inevitably fall throughout human history. Violently conquered, politically fragmented, absorbed by new emerging powers, though marble palaces became romantic ruins for curious tourists. But in a small, forgotten tomb, in a remote village, a simple and modest gravestone inscribed, Helena, healer and goat herder, beloved by the local community. No one ever knew that an empress who masterfully deceived history lay there because Celestina lived 53 years beyond death. So I ask you with all sincerity, what would you do if your gilded life was actually a claustrophobic prison inside? Would you continue playing the role others wrote for you? Or would you have the courage to do what Celestina did, to symbolically die in order to finally live? Because in the end, she didn't cowardly flee her powerful empire. She bravely fled to herself, to the suffocated woman within. And in that radical and audacious escape, she found the only kingdom that truly matters in this life. The kingdom of her own finally liberated soul.